Hi, I'm Amy Koranek. I'm a Sculpey brand ambassador, and today I'm going to show you how to create custom colors using the Premo in the granites, glitters, and pearls. It's a great way to elevate your designs, whether it be jewelry or home decor. I'm also going to show you how to create these earrings and bangle bracelets from our newly created custom colors. Okay, so let's take a look at tinting your own custom colors using the Premo in the glitters, the pearls, and even the granites. So I've got some samples set up here for you that I really enjoyed making. This one is a blended sheet of clay that's been tinted totally with some of our glitter clays, and I just love the way that bling shows through the colors. This little grouping was tinted, each color was tinted with our opal clay, and so that's another way to bring out your own custom colorway. Here's an example of a very dark piece that was tinted with Galaxy glitter and also with Twinkle Twinkle, which helps really dark colors have some of that bling come through. This final piece, this is another blend that was tinted with just, I believe, the silver or white gold glitter. So let's take a look first at our glitter clays, and I want to show you how they look on their own. This one is the yellow gold glitter, this is rose gold glitter, and this is white gold glitter. And what's unique about them is that they are just chock full of glitters, obviously. This is how they look baked. But also when you add them to other Premo colors, they don't change the colorway of the Premo itself except to tint it. So it's a really great way to create a dynamic of bling and just tinting and maybe creating a color scheme of like changing the DNA so that they're all together in one family. And that's how these organic earrings were created. I used the white gold glitter for this section, the rose gold glitter here, and the yellow gold glitter there. And it's actually looks like different colors of clay, but it's the same ecru clay all throughout, just tinted in different ways. So let's set these aside and I'll show you how I did that. I already have tinted. This is the yellow gold glitter. This is the rose gold glitter. Same color, Premo ecru, just tinted with different colors. Now I'm going to show you how I achieved that with the white gold glitter. And first I'll start by doing just a little hand conditioning. And this was a 3-to-1 ratio of the glitter clay to the solid clay. Now I find that this technique works really well with neutrals like this ecru is. It's a very neutral color, and so it really shows off the bling that is brought through with those glitter colors. You can tint with glitter colors, with the opal color like I showed you. You can tint with pearls. Pearl Premo is a really great way to tint other clays. And then after I show you these 3 tints, I'm also going to show you how to tint with granite. Okay, so I have this really soft and pliable, so I'm just going to go ahead and run it through my pasta machine to make this go quite a bit quicker. And I'm working on the thickest setting. And I'm just going to pass it through a few times till it's completely blended. And a lot of times I like to stop with an impartial blend. I think that makes a beautiful background to projects. So sometimes I'll stop and sometimes I'll blend completely. And that's what I was showing you here on the back of this dish, is this is an impartial blend, and that's what's creating all these beautiful waves of color and color depth. Okay, let's go like just one more pass to make sure we're blended. Okay, now look how different these 3 look. And this is all the ecru just tinted with yellow gold glitter, white gold glitter, and rose gold glitter. And because they have that consistent DNA of the ecru running all through them, they look like they go together, only they're in varying shades. So for these earrings, let's put this color on the bottom, and we're just going to cut 2 of these with our irregular oval. And what I like to do anytime I use a cutter is I'll always go back around with my finger and just kind of smooth that cutter edge. Sometimes cutters have a little overlap where the metal meets the metal in the round, and so it's nice to smooth that out. Now after I smooth that, also I like my earrings to be mirror imaged in shape, so I don't want to do two the same way. I'm going to flip this one over, and then I'm going to smooth the top edge of it up here so that when you use a cutter, it kind of bevels down through the clay, and so I can mimic that bevel look by flipping that one over. The middle section of our earring is a half round, and so I'm just going to grab one of my circle cutters, and I'm going to compare that. I'm going to try to make it about the same size and shape as my sample, and so it is this one. I'm just going to cut out one circle, and I just cut all the way through to my work surface and then give it a little twist. I'll do my little smoothing technique again, and then I'll cut that one in half with a blade, just using a straight blade. Okay, so that gives me my centerpiece. I love the organic shape that these kind of come out to, and I like that those neutral tones with the glitter in them. I think it's very complimentary of this style of earring with some organic shapes and neutral tones. Our final piece would be the little circle at the top, and I'm going to use this little 3/4 inch cutter, and I'll just cut out two of these. Push all the way through and then twist. Push all the way through and then twist. And that just helps that place where the cutter was made that has that little overlap. When you twist like that, you're kind of, smoothing that place out. Just doing my little touchy-feely thing there. I always like to line up the pieces, and then I'll be creating holes in my pieces so that I can connect them together later with jump rings. So take a moment and get a good look at this and make sure it's all lined up so that you can poke the holes. And I like to use this blunt point tool a lot. This is in the clay tool starter set. I poke in and then twist, and then go directly above. If you've got your pieces all lined up, this should be fairly easy to just eyeball these, no measuring required. And if I'm going to glue a post on the back of that top piece, and I just need the one hole at the bottom, and those are all right in line. Now I'll do my other earring. This middle one gets 2 holes because it's going to take 2 jump rings to secure that all together. Okay, now I always want to go back to the back side and double check. When you poke through with this blunt point tool, you're actually creating sort of a little rim of clay there that I like to poke back inside, and then I'll set this on my baking dish. So just go back the other way and poke that in. Now if you like, or if you prefer, you can always use a Dremel tool, and you could bake your pieces first and then use a Dremel tool to drill holes in the baked clay. And the benefit of that process is that, well, number one, you don't get that little rim of clay poking through the other side. That rim of clay is completely removed. Also, you'll notice that I'm pretty warm and the clay's pretty warm. These lights I'm sitting under are warm. And so when I poke the hole through with this blunt point tool, it can have a tendency to like make the clay wave out right here where the tool went through. With a Dremel tool, pre-baking clay and then drilling after baking, you won't have that. So it's really just a matter of preference. If you like to have pieces come right out of the oven ready to assemble with the holes already poked, or if you might want to use a Dremel tool and finish that off. Okay, those can go in the oven. And then here's what our finished earring looks like, and I'm going to show you how I accomplished that. Now let's back up one step, because I did also add an accent of a paint marker, and I chose to do that on just the bottom piece. And this is a really great Deco Color premium paint marker. and it's a real juicy paint marker. That's why I like it. So you can, the way I achieved that is I just put that right on the edge of the clay, and then you can just drag the piece around. You can do this on raw clay and bake it right on, or you can do it on baked clay. Now when I do it on baked clay, like this piece is, I actually like to return this piece to the oven and bake it again so that that paint marker paint is really bonded with the clay. So either way, you can paint on raw clay or you can paint on baked clay. And this is the type of marker that I prefer. So that's how this rim was achieved on the edge of this organic piece at the bottom. And I did rebake it after putting that on there. Okay, now I like to use 2 sets of pliers, flat nose pliers, to open and close jump rings. So I'll just give you a quick little demo about opening and closing jump rings. The pliers are simply an extension of your fingertips. There's nothing magical about pliers, but they're smaller, they give you a little more strength. And what I'm doing is I'm putting the gap in the jump ring, I can feel it with my fingernail, I'm putting it up toward the top, toward my eyes. I'm grabbing with pliers on both sides, and then I'm twisting, one pliers toward me and one pliers away. That is the proper way to open a jump ring. So what you're doing is you're opening jump rings like this. You're twisting them away from each other. You don't ever stretch a jump ring like this. When you stretch jump rings, they lose their manufactured tension strength, and then they don't ever want to hold or close completely. So you need to practice some good technique at opening and closing jump rings. Now I'm going to do the opposite thing. I'll grab each side and I'll join those right together, and I'm actually pushing the pliers toward each other so that there's a lot of tension right in that gap. And when the jump ring closes, then it has that tension against the wire that holds it closed. And it's really important to have good technique about your jump rings, because when you make jewelry items, you don't want that jump ring to open and then lose your beautiful clay piece that you've labored over. You want it to close well, and you want it to stay closed when people, wear your items. So now there's no magic to this pair being bent. They don't have to be. That's just the type. I just kind of have one of every type of plier, and I'm just choosing to use that one in this moment. So there's how you open and close jump rings. And obviously I have glued a post to the back, and I have the earring back already in place. When I have large earrings like this, I always like to use the largest backing that I can, because I think it holds the earring more flatly to the earlobe. Okay, let's clean up a little bit, and then I'll show you how to tint with granite. So these bangle bracelets, these are Premo Sculpey, and I'll just show you the colors I used raw so that you can get a look. This is bright green pearl, purple pearl, peacock pearl, and believe it or not, they were all tinted with granite, but they still don't look gray. They just got this beautiful smattering of speckles throughout the colors, which kind of unites them in that, family of colors again. And I just really love the interest that brings so easily to a clay design. It's like, it's not hard. You can do it right when you're blending colors, and it just adds another layer of detail. Here's another instance where this is a tiny dish. This was our Premo Wasabi, and this is our Premo Green. And just look how cool those colors look with that. It's almost like it's got pepper sprinkled through it. And so it doesn't change the color, the base color stays, but it just gives you this really cool speckle. Another thing I love about gray granite is that the speckles are not like uniform in size. They're really random in size, and so it totally looks almost beachy, like sandy beach. So I went ahead, we're going to make these 2 bangles, and I went ahead and previously sheeted the bright green pearl and the peacock pearl and the purple pearl through the machine on my thickest setting, just to get the start of a blend. And I'm going to show you real quickly how to make a blend. All right, so the first thing I want to do is achieve my blend. And so when I made these sheets of clay, what I did is, if I can lay them up here on my pasta machine, is I made each sheet about a third of the width of my rollers. And they're actually a little wider than a third because I want them to overlap each other slightly. And that's how I got this cool blend from the bright green pearl through the peacock pearl through the purple pearl. Okay, so those are ready to go, and the first thing I'm going to do is use some hand pressure, and also I'll just use my roller to kind of seal them to each other so they want to make that seam. Now again, I want them slightly overlapped because I want them to actually bond, and I've got my pasta machine on the thickest setting, and I'm going to run this through. And so now they're really sealed together, and then I'm going to fold. And you always fold green to green, blue to blue, purple to purple. Okay, you don't want to fold it the other way because we are creating a blend. We don't want to create a color mix, we want to create a blend. Okay, I can see my colors really starting to blend. I'm getting a good intermediate right in here and right along this edge. Now, this is about how big my sheet is going to be. So what we can do, we can either process this through all the way through the blend, or we can tint it at the same time. So to save a little time, we'll just go ahead and prepare our gray granite to be the tint for this blend. And so I have this on the thickest setting, but I'm going to take this down to about the fourth thickest setting. And when you put things through a pasta machine, you always fold one edge and put the fold through first. That helps that any air bubbles that would be in this fold to be pressed out through the open side. You're also going to notice when you use a pasta machine that your sheet is going to get as wide as the pasta machine rollers, but obviously then it can't go any further because we have these guards on the side. So that helps us create a sheet that these two sheets are exactly the same width. But now I want my gray granite to be much thinner. This is on the thickest setting, and I want to take my gray granite down until it's a very thin sheet, the same size as that one. And it really doesn't matter how your machine is set up. This machine actually starts on 0, and now I've gone to number 4, and I'm going to go on down to number 5, so my sheet will be really large and it will cover my blend. Okay, so this would be the proportion that we're using. For my colors, each of these was about 1/3 of a bar of Premo, and this gray granite sheet is 1/2 bar of Premo. Okay, so see how that completely covers my blend sheet, and I even have a little extra, which is fine. Now I'm going to put this back down on the thickest setting, and I'm going to press it through again to bond these together. Okay, and then I keep folding and blending purple to purple, green to green. And I'm just going to keep folding and pushing that through. And here's one of those impartial blends that I tend to love so much. But you can also see that the gray granite is starting to emerge, and it's going to start blending in. This is also very pretty if you do it with just pearl Premo and just add more pearl to all the colors. That's another one that I've loved. And like I showed you earlier, I love tinting with opal as well. Okay, look at how cool that looks. You can just really see the speckles from the gray granite is blending into each color and changing that color to a whole new look. Totally custom. Okay, you can go to complete and perfect blend, or you can stop. Here's another thing I love about these blends. Because the pearl colors have mica in them, they create these mica trails. And I love that too, because it just adds a little bit more interest. Okay, so I'm going to go with that. And to make a bracelet about this size, I know I made at least 2 bracelets out of this volume of clay. So I'm just going to cut a piece off, and I'll save the rest for more bracelets. And then what I want to do is just roll this up, and you want to decide which side you want on the outside, if one side had more detail than the other. But I'm using a lot of fingertip pressure to really roll that over hard so that I'm not trapping air bubbles. When I make bangles, I always only make my bangles out of either Sculpey Premo or Sculpey Soufflé, because they are so super strong and slightly flexible. And when you wear a bangle bracelet, you need that flexibility to get it on over your wrist. And the other thing is, once you flex it over your wrist, you want the clay to go back to its original tension. And so you get both of those functions when you use Premo Sculpey or Soufflé Sculpey. They're strong enough to handle that kind of wear. Okay, so now I'm just rolling this to seal it. If you wanted to, you could twist it a bit, and that would create a mica trail that is going to come at every little seam, and I like that for added detail. Also, when I rolled the piece up, it created that seam, which would be along the edge of the clay, but if you twist it and incorporate it into the design, I think it's a lot more pleasing. Okay, so now at this point, you just need to determine, you could make a round bracelet, or we could flatten it like this one, and I'll show you how I flattened it. Let's do a double check on our length, because for a women's bracelet, we need at least 7 inches, which we have right here. So if you want your bracelet, if I've gone too far, you can increase it by pushing it end to end. And now we're down right at 7, because I don't want to waste a lot of my clay. I want to preserve that, and we'll just make like a little wider band. Okay, so that's at least 7 inches. All right, now if you want to flatten it like this, just use fingertip pressure to start and flatten it to your work surface. And then flip it over and do that again. Okay, now I need to orient it this way so that I can follow like the edges and see how straight it is. So I'm just going to turn it 90 degrees. And then I'm going to use my acrylic roller to roll, and I'm holding this really as level as I can with my work surface just to flatten that down. And then I'll flip it over and do the same thing on this side. Okay, now to my eye right here, it's a little too thick. So I'm just going to focus on reducing that thick area with pressure. So I'm actually pushing the clay in and letting it stretch that way to relieve that bulge. And then I'll flip it over and do a double check this way. Okay. And that looks pretty good. This is nice and thick. This is probably about 3/16 thick, so I know that that will be plenty strong for a standalone cuff bracelet. So I'll get my ruler back out, and I need to trim this because a women's standard bracelet is about 7 inches. But you could do some measuring and make a custom bracelet just so that you make it the size that it is for yourself or for whoever's going to wear it. It's good to know their bracelet size. And then I like to cut these at an angle because I think it just gives kind of a nicer finish. You could cut them exactly straight, and then you're going to want to go back in here and touch that up with your fingers. Okay, and then we need a form. We need a form to put this on. So what I do is I use either glass or metal forms. And this metal form, it's a water bottle. It just happens to be just exactly the right circumference for a 7-inch women's bracelet. So I just tap it onto here and carefully wrap this around. Okay. Now at this point, if you had a really long bracelet, let's say you wanted it to be a wrap bracelet, you could wrap it around more than once and make like a coiled bracelet. That would be cool. But this is just a once around bracelet, and this, leaving it, you could close it completely. Those are a little bit hard for me to get over my big hands. I have kind of big hands, but small wrists and big hands. So I always like to do a cuff bracelet that has the gap in it, because that gives you more flexibility for taking it on and off. But the possibilities are endless when it comes to design like that. So this is a perfect way to form a bracelet. Once it's baked on there, it will stay that shape. And this just goes in your oven. You're going to want to prop this up just a little bit. You could prop it up with our baking pad that we have in our bead making kit. Or you could prop it up, you know, you could put like a towel or something under here just to hold the bracelet up off of the baking surface. And then when you're all done, you just pop them off and they look cool like that. You could wear them together or separate. So that is some color tinting and some color tinting projects, and I hope that you're going to try that. We hope that you've enjoyed learning how to make custom colors and also how to make these earrings and bangle bracelets from the colors. If you'd like more inspiration and thousands of projects, please visit our website at Sculpey.com. And we'd love to see what you make, so if you post to social media, please use the hashtag Sculpey and hashtag HowDoYouSculpey so that we can check out your work as well.